Hey everybody, what's going on? This is my Return of the Jedi review, and first off, let's start out with the rating. For me, I personally like this movie better than Empire. I know that's going to give me a lot of hate, and as I just said in my last review, that Empire was my third on the list. I give Empire a solid 8, I think, out of 10. I would probably rank this the same as Empire. Um, but I like this movie better. I know that's weird because a lot of people give Return of the Jedi a lot of hate because of the Ewoks, and they feel like the story's not the same, but the plot of blowing up the Death Star is the same as A New Hope, which I understand. I kind of thought that at some point during this rewatch. My top three is Revenge of the Sith, Return of the Jedi, and then Empire. A lot of people think the third movie in the trilogy is the worst. I think it's the best personally. I say it's tied with Empire on my list, like rating wise, but out of what I like better is Return of the Jedi. I don't know why I like Return of the Jedi better. Ever since I was a kid, I was always drawn to that movie more. I don't know if it was just the climax of the movie and the ending, seeing Vader die, come back from the light or from the dark side, I mean. And I've always liked Luke's green lightsaber better than the blue one. I know the blue one's Anakin's, but I've always just liked the green better, for myself. I've always been drawn more towards the green. So for this movie, I feel like it doesn't drag on, but we spend a lot of the beginning dealing with Jabba and his palace and his little cruiser that he has. I feel like that takes up a big chunk of the movie. It's not always fast. It's like the pacing is kind of slow, but as soon as we pass that part where they escape and get the drones out of the sand, I feel like it's just smooth sailing from there, no pun intended, but the movie just flows by. And the only part I feel like it slows down again is the part with Ewoks, which is a big thing about this movie, or a big thing that people don't like about this movie. And it's funny because I used to call them mini Chewbacca's when I used to watch this with my cousins, and at at one point they were gonna be on the planet of Kashyyyk, I believe. That's what I've heard. That was gonna be like the Wookiee planet, and then George Lucas changed it, and because I mean, he put in the Ewoks for little kids, to make it more kid friendly. Um, but I used to call them mini Chewbacca's, and then I would grow up and learn to know that this was supposed to be the planet of the Wookiees. So it's kind of funny to me in hindsight, but I feel like that slows it down a little bit. But yeah, getting captured by the Ewoks, I feel like took up a little bit of time, but I know it progresses the story because it helps them out, the rebels, in their attack on the shield generator. I really like this movie because you see the relationship between Leia and Han really grow, and in Empire, it's still kind of like in the air. Like, yeah, they do like each other, and in the end, they say, "I love you." And it's like, I know, like that whole thing. But in this movie, it's really kind of solidified. That Leia's admitting that she really likes Han. Like when he's gonna do the mission on Endor, and she's like, "I'm in," like right away. It's like we know you like him. Um, but it's just so much more evident. Like it's it gives purpose. I don't know if that makes sense. Something I don't remember from this movie from when I was younger watching it was when Vader and Luke are talking and they're walking on um, Endor, like to his ship, and Luke's kind of surrendering himself. I don't really remember that too much, like from when I was little. But watching it and having the little interaction where Luke's telling him, they're still good in you, but Vader thinks like, nah, bro, like I'm dark. Look at my suit. Like look at my saber. I think that's like a nice scene, and it's a nice glimpse or like even foreshadowing because when he refers to him as once being Anakin and he's like, no, that part of me is dead or whatever Vader says. But I feel like at that moment in his head, it's just stuck there. You know, like someone can tell you something and it's just stuck there. Like so he's thinking about it and it's like that's the little bit of hope in Vader's head. Like it's not in his head, but like that they have of possibly turning him back to the light. There's the whole. I don't want to call it a throne room. I don't think it's a throne room, but it's the scene with Vader, Palpatine, and Luke. You just want to strangle the Emperor because he's such like an ass. Everything he's saying to Luke, talking shit, and basically trying to make him his new Vader. And it's funny to me because I know at this point of Return of the Jedi that, or when the movie originally came out, you're having him trying to turn him, Palpatine trying to turn Luke, have him basically be his new Anakin, and then you see how Anakin was in Revenge of the Sith. He has his hand cut off. Luke has his hand cut off in this movie. Well, he has his mechanical hand, but physically they're almost the same person, and the Emperor wants him like to be his new attack dog. That's what they want him basically for. It's like he wants him at his side to be his little attack dog, to bark when he says to bark. And that's how I feel like there's the symbolism of having Anakin and Luke practically be the same at different points in time and trying to turn them. One he successfully does. Something I've never really understood about this movie, and I recognized it again on the rewatch, was how Vader knows that Luke has a sister. And I don't remember anyone ever saying anything about a sister, unless Palpatine knows and tells him at some point. Did he say that in the movie? I don't know if Palpatine references Leia. Or maybe Vader just assumes or has like a feeling because he had this connection with Luke. So he has the same kind of feeling about Leia because he's been in her presence. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if any of this makes sense. But that's something I never understood because he talks, unless he's just going off of what Luke's feelings are putting out in that moment. Because I know he's trying to turn Luke at that point. And Luke's saying no. And then so Luke's like worried about, oh, what about Leia? And then Vader's feeling that and reading off it, and that's when I don't know. It's never really made sense to me. I don't know if I've just missed it every time in the movie. At that moment is when Luke dips into the dark side and uses his hate against Vader, and that's when Palpatine wants him to kill him, to replace his prized possession, Anakin. And something watching these in episodic order really makes me realize, like, Palpatine wants Anakin because he's strong and full-bodied, well, minus his hand, but he's such a strong being, and he knows that Vader is so, not weak, but he is very limited in what he can do because he's mostly machine at this point. So that's why he's kind of egging Luke on, I feel, is to kill Vader so he can have that able-bodied Skywalker that he's always kind of wanted at his side to replace him. And that's something you see through the progression of the movies if you watch them episodically versus release order. Well, to me at least. I think it's a fitting ending for the trilogy. I would say for the saga up from 1 through 6, like a lot of people think that's where it should have ended. I don't want to say that's where it should have ended. I think a sequel trilogy was a good idea. But like most people, the sequel trilogy should have had written out kind of story arc for where it's going to start to end. And they could fill in a little bit in the middle, some backbone. But I think without that structure, because, the original trilogy didn't really have a way it was going. And then So that was kind of written and went along, but that worked for its time because those were the first three movies. They can do and say whatever they want, and for the prequels, you know where it's gonna go and end because you're starting off with meeting Anakin, and it's gonna end with his fall to Vader. So like that, you have a structured story compared to the sequels. But that's enough for the sequel talk right now. Give this a like, comment your thoughts, give me that thumbs up, and I'll catch you next time on the sequel trilogy reviews. What's going on? I'm here with myself. Them getting captured by the Wookiees. Yeah, they find out where Leia is. Did I say Wookiees? I mean Ewoks. Too many Star Wars things going on in my head. Whew.